Okay, there's two new things here. Let's start with a simple equation, x squared equals 4. I'm sure you can think of what the solution to this is. It's some number squared is equal to 4. Clearly we all know that x equals 2 is going to work here. If you put 2 in and square it, it's going to give you 4. What most people don't realize is there's actually two solutions to this equation. The other one is x is equal to negative 2. Think about it. If you take negative 2 and square it, in other words, multiply negative 2 by itself, you also get positive 4. This is true of most equations, or many equations that have an x squared in them when you're solving them. They have two answers, the positive version and the negative. Doesn't matter what it is. X squared equals 36. X equals 6 clearly works, but again, x equals negative 6 also works. Negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. So whenever you're solving an equation that has an x squared in it, when you're taking the square root at the end, you've got to remember that in fact there are two answers that satisfy that, the positive and negative version. Okay, let's move on to part A. So this says we want to solve it, and we want to give either answers correct to 3 decimal places or exact. So let's talk about that. So clearly the way to solve this, we have x squared is equal to 11. This is not a perfect square, and we don't know exactly what it is. It's not like 4, and you can just take the square root and get 2, or 36 and get 6. We are going to solve it, take the square root of both sides. Okay, and over here, we're going to ask our calculator for the square root of 11. And it's going to tell us that it's this long decimal. But whatever this long decimal is, when you multiply it by itself, it's going to give you 11. So that is one of the answers, rounded to 3 decimal places. But you got to remember the negative version is also an answer, because if you take this negative long decimal and multiply it by itself, it will also give you 11. So that also satisfies x squared equals 11. This number can be substituted in. So here are the two decimal answers. When it wants it in exact form, you can't write this decimal exactly. It goes on forever and never repeats. But you can leave it as just the square root of 11. That is an acceptable answer, and this is called leaving it in radical form. Okay, radical form. It's the square root of 11. It's exact. Whatever the exact square root of 11 is, you're saying that's what x value is. And it's also, we got to remember that the negative version of that decimal is there too. So here's the exact version. Here's the decimal version. Two answers for each. Okay, over here. We have 5s squared minus 101 equals 144. First, we're going to add 101 to both sides. We're going to try to isolate that s squared value. Okay, that goes away. We have 5s squared equals 245. I'm going to try to get this by itself. I'm going to divide by 5. And then I get that s squared is equal to 49. This one is nice. We are going to take the square root of both sides, but we've got to remember that both 7 and negative 7 are going to be the answers. Here we have x squared equals 0. Again, we're going to take the square root of both sides, but this is one of these cases where there's not a positive and negative version of 0. There's only one number you can put in for x here to get x squared equals 0, and that's 0 itself. There's no negative version. Let's come over here. I'm going to subtract 12. Okay, I get 0.4 m squared equals 18. Divided by 0.4 on both sides. I get that m squared is equal to 45. I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get this decimal when I put it in my calculator, rounded to 3 places. M is approximately 6.708 or negative 6.708, and in exact form, we have m is equal to the square root of 45 or m is equal to the negative square root of 45.